right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable. This is a multimedia platform to bring hazmat response information and training tips to hazmat members around the globe. I'm Bobby Solison, and just me and Phil here. That's it.
Yeah,
holding down the seats right now. So we'll wait for Mike to get back. And tonight, what do you got to talk about, Phil?
Oh boy, I guess I should introduce myself since there's so many new fans. There's
Enough about
new
you.
fans.
What about me?
Okay, yeah.
Nice.
I'll show off my shirt again.
Oh, nice. You could buy those.
It's good. It's a good shirt. Yeah, they're for sale. They're available. Check out the hazmatguys.com.
Yes. /store.
Yeah, /store. Yeah, I'm Phil Ambrose, and we had picked a topic that's kind of been. Has it been in the news? It wasn't stay in the news. I think today the news is something else with the election going on. But should we go right into the topic? You want to talk about some breaking news going on?
No, do you got anything that's kind of the topic of the day is that we were talking about charging batteries, lead acid batteries, and how they can mislead a company. And we've actually had one or two of these things where I work, which I'll bring into this, which parlayed actually into whole nother run, but it was an interesting run nonetheless. We went through that whole process to figure this out. Is there anything that you had that was breaking that was kind of in that? I know there was a train derailment in DC.
Train derailment, another ammonia leak, a bunch of white powders. I kind of went through all of them, and they're all important. They're all good. But this one we had some inquiries about, and I look back at this one that we're going to talk about, and you wonder how many times something like this happened to teams, and they might not have ever realized it. So you go back, because I do believe we had a time that this particular incident happened, but it wasn't even on our radar at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because when I think Kosh threw this as he was off on his way to the Florida Keys, he says, why don't you guys talk about lead acid batteries and stuff like that, and how they mislead people? Because there was a whole story, right? You got the story, but it was basically a scene that they went in to investigate a carbon monoxide, and it was actually hydrogen.
Yeah, so it came up recently. It's funny because Bob knew about it, because it seems to go hand in hand with golf carts, because golf carts have the lead acid batteries, and Kosh is in the Keys right now. So if he's on there, he's having a better time than anybody else. But he's on vacation.
And
Mike's on a run,
which is
he does.
God's waiting room.
Yes, I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the going joke, but I can't imagine anybody. The whole state is driving golf carts.
Yeah,
I just offended every Florida person that's listened to the show.
You gotta, yeah. What? But so it did come into the news. We had some. I don't know that it actually made the newspapers, but
right.
We had some intel from some of the fans out there telling us about one that just happened in Florida, and then of course doing some research, we had a few. There's a good article in Firehouse Magazine that I'd sent out to a few guys that inquired on this exact call, and we had done it. One of our guys that trains with us out of Virginia, we did at one of our Has Sim challenges. One of the evolutions was we had a bunch of lead acid batteries, and they got to go through the room, and they use the Has Sim, and we'd give them hits for CO because of the hydrogen. So I trained on it. My personal experience with it, it was a mechanical room with a backup system, but I was thinking about it today when I was out, and we assumed it was CO because we also had a heater there that got worked on previously, and we kind of moth to a flame. We went to that, and looking back, I'm pretty sure we were getting CO hits due to the hydrogen from the batteries charging. And of course, once the building manager had his maintenance guy there, and they were promising they were going to fix everything. I don't know this for a fact, but I think the batteries probably happened to them too. And it wasn't ever an issue there again. So I think we had one that we didn't even know about. We left there just sure we had caught a CO leak.
Right. It's easy. I mean, all right. So guys, just to break it back a little bit, and though I'm not an expert on metering it. Anyway, most of the meters out there use an electrochemical cell.
I'm working on the expert thing.
Excellent. Awesome.
Smart water really kicks up the
That's sick. Yeah.
Chemistry.
Anywho, all right. Is that it works in electrochemical gel, the ones in most of our meters. Now, is that always? No, depending on the meter that you have. But I'm going to say the majority of the meters out there uses some type of electrochemical with gel that's in there. And what it does is it kind of tricks that electrochemical into triggering a positive. So I think it's like 2-to-1, whereas it'll give you, if you have 2 parts per million showing on the meter, it's actually like 1 part per million of actual hydrogen. It's something to that effect. I know it's like it's a cross sensitivity, but there's a response factor to that cross sensitivity. Not that you would use it accurately at all in the first place.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a couple of things about hydrogen that we're not picking up on. If you go into a battery backup, a battery room that is not properly ventilated, let's say like in where I work, they're all over the place. They are on a specific floor in a multiple dwelling, and then they run the piping outside the windows, up the side of the wall, and it goes to the roof, the whole the array up there. And these rooms have to have mega fans blowing completely in and out in order for them to do what they do, because they give off a lot of hydrogen. It's just the method of the charging and discharging cycle. So there's a metal plate in there with hydrogen, sulfuric acid, and just that action creates hydrogen gas.
And just with the lead acid, right? Can we lithium batteries, anything like that? Any other advanced technology batteries in the electric cars? Is that something we're going to see?
Well, see, and I was just talking to Phil about this beforehand. I actually know probably one of the world's most. Oh my God, is he on right now?
Oh boy,
he just came on. Paul, you got to jump in the seat.
Too bigger than yeah.
This is the guy that is writing the book on batteries. I don't know how much he's going to give us, but if he jumps in that seat, be prepared. He really knows his stuff with this. Just while we're in the hydrogen mode, remember this stuff. This is the Hindenburg. That remember that in what was it, pre-World War II that went down? It was filled with hydrogen. Extremely flammable stuff. You also might see it as a refrigerant. They call it R702. It's kind of like they use it as a refrigerant. It can be used as extremely flammable, displaces oxygen. Burns with an invisible flame. Did you ever hear one of these? It's like an ethanol fire where they tell you to walk with a corn broom in front of you.
Yeah, you can't see it.
Because you can't see it. That way the broom goes on fire and you say, I got to stop you. So this is one of those things where the flame is totally invisible. Yeah.
And then, hey, Jason, we heard a little bit about the retirement party. Would love to hear more. And thanks for coming on. Bob only gave limited details.
As he should have.
Yeah, good boy.
A couple of things.
Go ahead. I was going to say, because in of course, we did some research, and this is, I'm reading this straight out of, and I'll reference his name until Paul gets on. But the typical CO detector designed to activate when the unit detects 150 ppm of CO for 30 minutes. So they're talking about, the residential and/or industrial fixed alarms, which is real close to what we're doing. It says it'll activate when exposed to 300 ppm of hydrogen gas for 30 minutes. And, then you're going and you're, hey, Paul.
Look at that handsome guy. Talk, Paul.
Can you hear me?
You sound better with your glasses on.
I can't see anything. How you doing, guys?
Good. We were actually just at the show, and I cannot believe I forgot to call you about this. We were talking about a recent event where there was a battery backup system that was being charged or discharged, and they didn't properly ventilate it. A fire department company went in there, got hits of CO, didn't know to look for hydrogen, and there was a cross sensitivity. And that's basically the premise. But I completely forgot to call you as the guy.
The guy.
I can't believe you just popped
You
up.
called him just in time.
Yeah, actually, that's happened in a couple of cases, even beyond the batteries. You know, one of the suicide runs that I went to too, they were off-gassing hydrogen, and the EMS guys, when they first came up, that's how they reported it. It was a high CO. They thought the guy died of CO. So there is a cross sensitivity with the CO detector and the hydrogen. But what's your question about the batteries?
Well, specifically, it's all right. So the batteries in question use a sulfuric acid and a metal plate, and that's how they charge and discharge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So when they do this charge discharge, they either give off hydrogen gas or they give off sulfur dioxide. Is that correct? Or am I wrong with that?
No, it's usually the hydrogen sulfide. I mean, I'm not hydrogen gas, but we really see that prevalent when they overcharge those things. When there is just on the normal operation, depending on what type of chemistry, we see that in the lead acid batteries. They also have valve regulated lead acid batteries, but the ones that we see them are the flooded. They're called flooded lead acid batteries, sort of like your car battery.
So it's a wet cell.
Correct. It's a wet cell. It's not an absorb.
All right. So the lithium, the lithium batteries, let's say the ones that we have in the DeWalt batteries and stuff like that, those are dry cells, correct?
They could be. They could be what they call an absorbed glass mat. They could actually have the electrolyte actually absorbed into it, but there's electrolyte in there.
Okay, and that's how everything moves, right? I mean, the electrons flow through the liquids.
Yes, that's exactly right. The any battery is going to have some sort of electrolyte inside of it.
Okay,
that's why they call it electrochemical.
So let me throw you in a seat. You know, I don't want to give away where you work because you're super secret top double probation kind of guy. But Paul is one of the bosses that works with me, and let's say you go on a run that you have a carbon monoxide, a regular truck company goes in, has a hit on carbon monoxide. They cannot find the source of it. And then they call Hazmat, whatever vendor we are in that day. We go in there and we go in with our first line meters, right? So we're going to have our probably 4 gas, our standard 4 gas, our PID, our FID, not even the FID. That's probably not a first line. But we're really not going in with anything, maybe a sniffer, right? So how are we going to look? What are we going to look at differently from our point of view as opposed to the truck's point of view? So
are you talking about in a battery incident, Bobby?
Yeah, let's say it's a cell battery room, and like let's say a multiple dwelling or something like that.
So basically, right now, lithium ion is going to be the battery of choice that's out there. That is definitely the most dense type energy storage system that's out there. Tesla has put one out for the private dwelling right now, and that's a major concern for us. We were just talking about that at the Department of Buildings today, this morning, about how we're going to look into this. Can we regulate them? Can we not regulate them? But as far as lithium ion is concerned, there is still a lot of misinformation and a lot of information that we don't even know about. There's testing going on with one particular company. I'm working on with them right now. We're looking at certain things on the battery. There's not even good fire data from a third party to give to the first responders. But in June, we will have some of that information. I was speaking with the guys today from the testing company that's doing it. They're hoping to have some data back to me by June. And I'm going to plug a symposium that we have going in the FDNY Foundation. On June 9th, we will have people from NFPA, Department of Energy, Underwriters Laboratory. We'll have a couple of people there. A company called an authority, NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Renewable something Authority.
Good enough.
Yeah. But there's going to be a whole lot of smart people in that room that's going to be able to answer a lot of questions.
Paul, is there a website or a name of that we can let everybody know?
Yeah, it's called the FDNY Foundation.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Just to let you know, it's a nonprofit organization. There's a lot of buzz on this right now. A lot of people emailing the hell out of me about it. And
about batteries.
No, about batteries, number one, but number two, about this symposium that I'm putting on for the Fire Foundation. I got some big hitters coming in, some heavy hitters coming in from around the country.
Besides yourself.
Besides myself.
So, all right. So what are they using the batteries for in private dwellings, homes? Are they using it to store solar energy, or is it to pull some power off the grid and just kind of hold it just in case?
Right now, when solar energy, the way they have it on houses, if the grid goes down, your solar's down.
Wait, explain that.
So in other words, if the electrical grid goes down, your solar panels are no longer good for the house. And the reason they do that is because they don't want them to backfeed the grid when they're working on it.
The lineman, right?
Yeah. So they're looking to circumvent that and try to put these solar panels into energy storage, and that's what they call sustainability. So if they do that, then the person would not be pushing that electricity back to the grid. They would just be storing energy and then using that energy for the day. So you heard that statement about the meter going backwards. Well, that won't happen anymore. They'll be storing that energy. I mean, the concept is great. They don't have the PV. The PV is really, or the photovoltaic or solar, that is not perfected yet, but it's coming. They're working on that.
Wow.
And being out in California where it's always sunny, we've got solar, Paul, and that's one of the things. We were pricing out those batteries when we did it, and it didn't financially make sense because we spin the meter backwards right now. But as soon as the power company puts the kibosh on spinning the meter backwards, it kind of makes the system financially. People are going to turn to those batteries. I think it's going to all of a sudden make financial sense, and more people will be putting them in. And then, so you're saying the lithium ion, these modern, most technologically advanced batteries, they have the potential to have the same issues as we have with the old timey batteries in the golf carts in Florida. No pun intended.
I'm not familiar with the golf carts in Florida. What do you mean by that?
There's been lots of news. There's a recent one out of Florida where it was a false alarm CO hit based on the hydrogen release from the charging station. It seems like it's very common with the golf carts with their chargers.
Yeah, these batteries will not liberate hydrogen during normal operation periods, even during overheating periods. Lithium ion will not do that. If lithium ion overheats or overcharges, they will go on fire. So
what's the likelihood of that? Like, are we going to be going to more fires because of these batteries?
Relatively safe? Without trying to knock the industry is doing a great job on actually putting safety layers in place that does not happen. Here's our concern. Our concerns are fires that take place subsequent or adjacent to these battery storage systems, and then that heat will transfer over to the battery. Even if the battery system shuts down, it won't stop that heat from going into the battery. That's our biggest concern.
Wow.
So we know that the lithium ion has a very high heat release if they do go up. There's a terminology out there called thermal runaway. A lithium ion battery is made up of many, many cells. And each cell, when a cell heats up, it will heat to the point that it could propagate to the following cell next door, and then so on and so on and so on, until the whole system is entirely up in flames. And that's called thermal runaway.
So, all right, no, that's That's really interesting stuff. I never even thought about that.
Now, another thing about lithium ion has many subsets. There's a lot of different chemistries within lithium ion. For instance, it's not just lithium ion, it's lithium ion cobalt oxide, lithium magnesium, lithium ion magnesium oxide, and so on down the road, iron phosphate. So each one of these things will have their own inherent dangers. But the more unstable they are, the better they are for storing energy.
Because there's more potentials across them.
Correct.
Huh. Wow.
So what do you see us going in the fire department? Let's say we're going to be going to the standard CO run. Do you see us having cross-sensitivity issues with any of these? Let's say we go to a private dwelling. It's 5 years from now. Of course, metering technology is going to advance, but let's say we have what we have right now. We go into one of these private dwellings for smells and bells, whatever you want to call it. We go in there for nothing. Do you see any of our meters pinging for something that would be an issue with the battery setup?
Yeah, there's people that have batteries, small little batteries for their phones when they go out. You know, if the grid goes down, they also have them for their security systems.
Yeah,
when they go out, so they're all lead acid based. But it doesn't mean that lithium ion is not on its way in there. The price of lithium ion has come down, and that's going to be mark my words, that will be the battery of choice because of its long duration, the shelf life on it. I just heard something that these things could last up to 20 years, these lithium ions that they have out there now.
And they don't have memories or anything like that. So you can basically do this over and over and over and over.
No, and you know, there is a tremendous amount of what they call UPS systems. Did you get into them?
No. Uninterruptible power supplies, right?
Yeah. In New York City right now, they are all lead acid based. So you will come into contact with them, guaranteed. Any phone company right now is using what the flooded lead acid. And they're also using valve-regulated lead acid. So those are out there. I spoke with a couple of people from the phone company. They stay and put with that technology until they can get more information about the lithium ion. So they're not making that transfer over yet.
Huh.
Oh, there's a question here.
We got a couple. A quick introduction to Paul. That hazmat fog. Can you see that on the side? I had the question. That's Jeff Zintek from. You see that thing? Anyway, Jeff Z, as we call him, from Phoenix Fire. He's hazmat captain, special ops captain out in the Southwest there. So let me get this straight. Lead acid batteries will degrade and give off hydrogen, and the lithium ion, if it degrades, will ignite.
No, I wouldn't use the word degrade. I would use the word overheat, fail. They can fail many different ways. Number one, overcharging, undercharging. They can an insult. In other words, getting banged, a bullet going through one of them could actually set that off. But there's a couple of different ways on how they can be compromised or fail.
But during normal operation, normal charge discharge cycling, you really don't have to worry about these things. They're giving off negligible hydrogen.
No, as a matter of fact, they're fighting us right now in New York City about the possibility of us asking for ventilation in the rooms. They don't want ventilation because they don't off-gas anything. They claim they don't off-gas anything during normal operations, which is true.
Okay.
But we're looking at ventilation for other reasons, which I'd rather not say on the air right now.
You don't have to say anything.
Good.
It's safety of, everybody. And
Paul, on the lithium ion, so I know Tesla likes to say that their batteries, it's a bunch of they show the picture of like a CR123 flashlight battery, like the mag lights we put on our helmets, that it's 5,000 of those in series, small little individual batteries, rather than what I would picture a lead acid battery just being the large plates. I never really thought, say, why. Is that an economy thing because it's cheaper to make the little ones and stick them all together? Or is that because if there was a problem, does it isolate it and to keep it going from throughout the whole battery? Do you have any expertise on that?
Yeah, in order for them to pass a UL standard 1973, they have to be able to keep that. There's two things. Either they have to, I think they just added this now. First, it had to be, they could not go outside a module. In other words, if that battery or cell were to go on fire and it propagate to the next one, it should stop within the module. It shouldn't go any further. But I believe it come this February, they just changed it to that cell cannot propagate to the next cell at all in order to pass the standard.
Wow. So they want each cell to be truly autonomous. They want it to be independent and almost I'm not going to say self-extinguishing, but it will protect the others by not pushing to the next area.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. And there's many ways that's proprietary information. That's like, for instance, you mentioned the word Tesla. Now, I've been to a couple of tests and I've seen some of their work. Tesla, they did their homework. Let's put it that way. They did their homework without trying to, be a cheerleader for anyone. They did their homework. They're very open on trying to work with the fire departments. They've been very good with me. Anything that I need, they answer it. Any questions I may have, they answer it. I gave them some insight on SDS sheets for the responders when they show, and they made those changes on the SDS sheets, just trying to make it a little bit easier for the responder when he gets on the site to be able to digest the information and make a good decision. So we're working from the NFPA, we're working from the New York City Fire Department. There's a lot of entities that are working. A lot of people are coming to us in the New York City Fire Department because we seem to be leading the way on these things going inside buildings or inside existing buildings, which is a big change. So they're making these things fit wherever they have room inside these buildings.
Wow. There's a question that guy Jay-Z,
that guy.
That guy.
That guy.
He asked, and this is a little bit off topic, but it's in the same realm. These e-cigs, these e-cigarettes that you saw that it explode in the guy's pocket, and these hoverboard, skateboard things that all the old men like me and you that are breaking our asses that the kids do them around on, they're going on fire. What are those batteries?
Well, here's what's going on with that. If you buy a hoverboard, you will see they'll have this little logo on it saying it's UL listed. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not necessarily true. So in other words, the battery, for instance, everyone buy it saying, oh, that battery was tested to the UL standards and it's good. No, that's not the case. What they did is they're putting on there that they are UL listed, but they could be listed for just the cord that runs from the battery to the inverter. And that's the only thing that's listed.
Not the system. Not
the system as a whole. They could be just a cord is listed. And UL is having a very difficult time with it. They have a website available for people to punch in information to find out if the system or that product is certified.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was speaking to some pretty big wigs in UL, and they're looking at ways to try to defeat it. It's almost like piracy, but it's a kind of like a gray area.
So these cells in these hoverboards and these e-cigs that are exploding guys' pockets, are they basically? Well, I mean, the e-cig is basically just a small rechargeable battery, like we put in.
Well, let me explain something. If you were to take your phone or your iPhone, for instance, that has a lithium-ion pack in the back, mm-hmm. or a laptop that may have a lithium-ion, if you were to take that and you smash it with a hammer, you could send that into thermal runaway. Or if you drop it from a high spot, there's a potential. If you poke something through it, there's a potential of sending that thing into thermal runaway.
Because of the insult.
Yes. This is a major problems on the airlines. The airlines are really concerned about this. I've been to a couple of things with the FAA, and they're looking at ways to try to defeat this.
There we go.
Interesting.
Nice job.
See that?
Good plug.
See, I just figured how to do that. That was kind of an accident.
Perfect. So they're Johnny caching their charging system. That's awesome.
Interesting.
Good job, Jeff.
So the whole premise of this, Paul, today, although I like the way this kind of steered over to batteries, was that there was an incident where there was hydrogen in the guy's garage. He was charging up his golf cart.
Yeah.
I guess it went into an overcharging cycle and started pumping out some hydrogen. And they were getting some decent readings. It was somewhere in a range of 300 parts per million for 30 minutes. That's a lot.
Yeah, I got a call one day from one of our captains in the FDNY. He was home, and his neighbor said that there was an alarm going off in the basement. Sure enough, it was a battery, and they called in the volunteer fire department. They got these, they came and checked it out, and their CO detectors were going off at 500 parts per million.
Oh wow!
And he called me up, and I gave him the answers. I told him disconnect the battery, which will stop the charging from taking place. And I said, remove the battery outside and ventilate. And he said, it worked like a charm. Once you shut down the battery and disconnect, it will stop that charging process, and that will stop the liberation of hydrogen.
So if anyone has any problems out there, we'll be giving out Paul's cell phone number for a modest charge.
And it sounds like the guy wasn't a smoker then. Then it could have been a better story.
Well,
wow. That's amazing. That's and we were just going into it. Hydrogen gas is very, very flammable. It doesn't need much more than just the ignition point. No,
it's it's very you hit the nail on the head. Very flammable. It needs very little impetus in order for it to actually ignite, and it burns very clean too.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of our meters actually use it. I know the meters that we have. Everything from I use the AP4C, which is a mil-spec grade that uses a hydrogen cell. There's a lot of them out there that use hydrogen in some way, shape, or form to perform their metering function, whether it be for doing some type of flame burn or some type of ionization through flame.
We had this discussion about LEL sensor fatigue and whether it'd be able to pick up hydrogen effectively when it starts to get older.
Right.
And, I was just thinking now that you mentioned the 4C, I'm sure that would be able to pick up the hydrogen.
It will.
Yeah.
It will, and it does. Yeah. And the funny thing is, and Mike's not here to justify, but he there was a meter that came to us. We get a lot of meters. They say, hey, try our stuff, try to break it, which we usually successfully do. They can give us a bag of ball bearings and we'll break those. So Mike he took a hydrogen cylinder and he super saturated it and blew the meter up. I mean, almost to the point where like the display shut off. It was so embarrassed. So,
I want to talk about one last thing before you conclude this battery topic. And I was just researching it tonight, and that's called arc flashing. By shutting down a system, you have the potential of an arc flash.
By flipping the switch is what you're saying.
Correct. And that arc flash could be about 35,000 degrees in some cases. It's very, very dangerous. Hopefully we don't have to deal with, but I've even seen maintenance guys who are there and are used to the equipment shutting down these systems and sure enough getting burnt by arc flashes. And I'm just researching this now, looking at it. I spoke with a couple of people from Underwriters Laboratory and some people from the NFPA, and they agreed with me. So they're working with us, but but I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware. Like when you shut something down, make sure your face is not right there in front of it. Make sure you have all your PPE on too.
SCBA, the whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It could happen, regardless of whether it's batteries or any type of disconnect. There's always that potential of arc flash.
Let me throw you one. Bob Stern asked, and I'm going to kind of piggyback onto it because he said, would you get pure hydrogen for a battery or overcharger? Would you get like some variant like hydrogen sulfide, sulfide dioxide? Does it depend on the plate material? Does it depend on the sulfide, the acid material? Does it depend on whether because I read something and it didn't really make sense. The sulfuric acid is outside of the container.
Here's what happens. You do get hydrogen from a flooded battery, and as a result of that heating that takes place, it decomposes the sulfuric acid, and you may get hydrogen sulfide also in the air.
Got it.
So if you take out your pH paper, you may be able to, get some sort of corrosive vapors in the air.
Wow.
Interesting. And you're talking about corrosive vapors in the air, not just I'm sitting like a good boy, because it's going to be so hot, this stuff, it's going to want to volatilize.
Yeah, it will off gas some of the liquid electrolyte that's inside of there.
Very interesting.
That stuff will spill out. There's and that's just with flooded batteries. Now those batteries are pretty safe compared to what's on the horizon for us.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
you said that the more condensed they get, the more of a hazard they get, the better they actually are for the potential of stored energy.
The more dense energy storage that you have, the more potential of a more intense fire if these things were to go up in flames. So I was talking today to a guy about getting heat release rates from these things. I want to know whether if we're going into a fireproof sub-basement where the heat's not going there, are we going anywhere? Are we going to be able to make it down that hallway with a 2.5-inch line? Will we be pushing through with 2.5-inch lines if we got a full system going up?
I'm sure this is in the somewhere in somebody's pages, but are they thinking about mandating, maybe not just locally, but are they thinking about regionally or nationally or even internationally mandating that there's a sprinkler installment?
Well, that's good. That's really good that you mentioned that, Bob. I was just in Kentucky 2 weeks ago at the ICC, which is the International Code Council, and I testified on behalf of the Fire Code Action Committee, was headed by Underwriters Laboratory. About 20 of us, we hashed things out back and forth. The current code in the international, if anyone uses the I codes, the current code does not address these batteries for the application that they're using them for. And what I mean by the application is when they put these batteries inside the International Fire Code, they did not think that people were going to be using them for load demand shift or peak shaving. So now the application has changed. And when I went to Kentucky, we added some things, but whenever you add something into a fire code, it may have unintended consequences to other people that have batteries already out there. So for instance, we had some issues with the telephone companies that did not like what we were proposing. So they're pretty good stewards of their batteries. They take care of them and things like that. So we needed to start to massage the code. The bottom line is it didn't come out exactly what we wanted, but if we didn't play ball, we would have lost to everything in the I code. We wouldn't have got anything. So there's a compromise that takes place. In New York City, we're looking to write a rule for the fire department, and that rule is like an executive order that people have to fulfill. And if you don't fulfill it, you do not get your batteries inside the buildings. So we're in the process of writing it. I have a couple ideas on what I'm looking to do, but I think after we write this thing, this may be what a lot of other standard development organizations like NFPA, they may adopt it, because I'm going to be reaching out to them, getting their input. And I'm going to be reaching out to some of the people that have these batteries out there, like telephone companies or energy stores or manufacturer companies. And I want to hear what they have to say.
Is there an NFPA standard on that?
No, they just put out something now to start an installation standard. Rich Beelin from NFPA would be the guy to contact if anyone is interested in joining that. They always like to have firefighters on there. The problem is a lot of fire departments do not have the money to send their guys to these meetings, especially when they're across country in Quincy, Massachusetts, or wherever it may be.
Wow.
That's a job for me. I'm in.
Yeah. Hey, Bob Lundgren's over that way. We're going to be there next month doing some training.
Yeah, nice.
So I want to recap because we had few people coming in, and we had the pleasure of having Paul Rogers here, which if you've heard 5 seconds of him speak, is I'm going to use a word, expert on the battery thing. We started out by talking about we started out by talking about false CO readings based on a hydrogen release from batteries being charged. Specifically, we were talking about golf carts in Florida because we love talking about Florida. And we got a discussion of the modern batteries, which not to be a nervous Nelly or anything with the technology, but all you hear about now is clean energy. In fact, he's not on here today, but the guys from the heat team in Imperial County, California, Oscar, when I was out there end of last year, there's giant fields now of solar panels and that's going to become one of their biggest industries for that area of California is the solar power. So then it makes me think, where are they going to store it? And some of these potential same issues. But Paul, all the work you're doing, it sounds like that's 100 hours a week is what I was trying to figure out. Everything you're doing is based on firefighter safety and helping us out. So I appreciate it.
Paul's 31 years old. This is a tough stop. He's really running it down.
Very good. Hey, coming 31 years this July.
Wow.
He's had a tough paper route. Oh, it's good. Well, I tell you what, man. Listen, Paul. We are going to wrap this thing up because I don't want to ruin this because it's real good. So we're going to wrap this thing up. You are more than welcome to hang out because after we stop recording, we start cursing. So that's always fun. Everybody, they all love that. So, Phil, why don't you take it home? What do we got going on real fast before we wrap this thing up? Anything that's coming up in the near future?
Oh, yeah. Bobby and Mike are both teaching classes at Baltimore. So don't miss it. We're planning a party at Baltimore. We've already got some ideas going. It'll rhyme with pub, and maybe the acronym might be PUB. And Hazmat will have a booth there. Bob Kush will be out there. I can't remember now if Jay-Z is going to be out there, but a lot of the folks that we were with at FDIC will be out in Baltimore. So plan on that. Plan on Nashville in October, Firehouse Expo. In Nashville, first year in Nashville, and I think we'll all be out there for that. Going to be big training. Yes. And I'm Phil. I run Hazmat Nation, and I own HazSim, and I'm going to plug it so we don't forget. If it's not on your screen, it's the Energy Storage Symposium. Any knuckle dragging firefighters out there, it's time to kind of get on board and not just talk about putting a hole in the roof, but what might be on the roof and in the garage that can hurt us. And this is good stuff. So I thank you again, Paul, for showing up short notice.
Paul, you listen. Paul is pushing his FDNY Foundation thing. You can see the link here, and it'll be perpetually up there. It is June 9th in New York City. If you can get there to the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, by all means, get there. Paul, before I ask you to give the email or anything of contact, be careful because people are going to contact you. So do you want to have them contact me? And I'll pass it through to you. Or do you want to give your email address out?
There's a young lady that I deal with who I've been working with on this. She's setting up the whole thing. Her name is Julie Nakos, Nacos, Julie Nakos. And it's julie.nakos at FDNY.NYC.gov.
Interesting. See, I give out your email address all the time when I'm talking to people too.
Yeah, stand by, Julie.
My email is buzzing away on a lot of other things.
Yeah, so it's at full effect. I am Bobby Salison. I am the host or co-host of the Hazmat Guys podcast, where we go over hazmat information you in a podcast format, not in a video format, but things might change. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Gmail, all that stuff under the Hazmat Guys. And of course, this show will be put into a video and a podcast version. You can find us at Hazmat Nation and Hazmat Guys 1 on Twitter and Facebook. Be sure to catch next week's show live every Tuesday, 21:15 hours Eastern Standard Time on Glad.im. And we'll also be producing, like I said, a podcast version of this. So with that being said, good night.
Good night.